She moved toward it slowly, gripping the edge and yanking it back in one swift motion. Underneath 3 large duffel bags, she crouched down, unzipping the first one. Bundles of cash, stack after stack, tightly packed and bound with rubber bands. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. Milo let out a low whistle. This ain't no side hustle. Tasha unzipped the second bag. More cash. The third bag held the same. She stood up, hands shaking. There's no way this is just about smuggling electronics. She took a step back, turning toward Milo. We need to get out of here now. Before Milo could answer, a sharp clanging sound echoed from outside the container. The noise of a metal pipe striking the ground. Voices, footsteps approaching. Milo grabbed Tasha's arm, pulling her behind one of the crates. They crouched low, holding their breath. 2 men stepped into the container, flashlights cutting through the dark. Check the stash. Boss wants a count tonight, one of them said. The other grunted, moving toward the duffel bags. Milo's hand tightened on Tasha's wrist, signaling her to stay still. The first man flipped open the nearest bag, shining his light on the stacks of money. All here. Good. Boss don't like surprises. The men turned and left as quickly as they had come, the sound of their boots fading into the distance. Tasha let out a shaky breath. We have to follow them, she whispered. Milo looked at her like she was crazy. You want to follow the guys who are definitely working for whoever has Andre? Are you out of your mind? If they're moving the money, they're moving something else too, Tasha argued. I'm not leaving without knowing where. Milo cursed under his breath but nodded. Fine, but we stick to the shadows. One mistake and we're dead. They crept out of the container, keeping their distance as they trailed the 2 men through the maze of cargo stacks. The workers didn't seem rushed, confident like they owned the place. The men stopped near another container, this one marked with the same faint winged symbol stitched onto their jackets. They unlocked the doors and pulled them open wide. Tasha and Milo stayed hidden, watching from the shadows. Inside the container were more crates, but these weren't electronics. From where they crouched, they could make out cages. Small ones, too small. Milo's eyes widened as the realization hit. This is it, he whispered. This is what they're moving. Tasha's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to rush in, to tear the doors off the container, and free whoever was inside. But Milo grabbed her arm, shaking his head firmly. Not now. We need proof. We need to know where they're taking them. Tasha swallowed hard, nodding slowly, though every part of her body screamed against standing still. They watched as the men secured the cages, covering them with tarps and loading them onto the back of an unmarked truck. Another man, dressed in all black with a clipboard, stepped up, checking the inventory. The truck rumbled to life, rolling toward the far exit of the yard. Tasha's heart pounded as she exchanged a look with Milo. We followed them. Milo's battered pickup truck rattled along the cracked road, its headlights off as they followed the unmarked cargo truck at a safe distance. Tasha gripped the dashboard, heart hammering in her chest. The truck ahead of them showed no signs of stopping. It moved through the industrial district like it belonged there, weaving past warehouses and shuttered shops without hesitation. Stay back, Milo muttered, barely above a whisper. If they spot us, it's over. I know, Tasha, replied, voice tight. The truck took a sudden turn, pulling onto a side street lined with more abandoned buildings. Milo slowed, hanging back at the corner. They killed the headlights and watched. The truck rolled up to a large metal warehouse. 2 men jumped out, pulling the rear doors open. Tasha's stomach turned when she saw them begin unloading the tarped cages, hustling them into the building one by one. We need to get inside, she said. Milo shook his head. We need backup. There's no time, Tasha hissed. What if they're moving them again? Milo's face twisted with frustration, but he knew she was right. He reached into the glove compartment, pulling out an old revolver. He checked the chamber. 2 shots. That's all I've got. Tasha didn't hesitate. She grabbed a tire iron from the floorboard and slid it up the sleeve of her jacket. Let's go. They slipped out of the truck, moving through the shadows toward the warehouse. Tasha's mind raced. Every instinct screamed at her to run the other way, but the image of Andre, beaten and terrified, kept her moving. The side door of the warehouse was cracked open. Milo eased it wider with the barrel of his gun. Inside the building was a cavernous, echoing space filled with stacked crates and rows of metal cages. Some covered, some not. Tasha's breath caught when she saw small hands gripping the bars of a cage near the entrance. A child, silent, wide-eyed. "Oh my God," Milo whispered. A group of armed men stood near the center of the room, talking in hushed tones. One of them, the same masked figure from the video, paced back and forth, barking orders. "Secure them. We move out in 30. Tasha counted at least 6 of them, maybe more hidden in the shadows. She turned to Milo. "We need to find Andre." They crept along the edges of the room, staying behind crates, moving cage by cage. Tasha's heart twisted with every child they passed. All young, all terrified. Near the back of the warehouse, they found a smaller cage covered with a heavy tarp. A single figure slumped inside. Tasha rushed forward, yanking the tarp away. Underneath 3 large duffel bags, she crouched down, unzipping the first one. Bundles of cash, stack after stack, tightly packed and bound with rubber bands. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. Milo let out a low whistle. "This ain't no side hustle." Tasha unzipped the second bag. More cash. The third bag held the same. She stood up, hands shaking. "There's no way this is just about smuggling electronics." She took a step back, turning toward Milo. "We need to get out of here, now." Before Milo could answer, a sharp clanging sound echoed from outside the container. The noise of a metal pipe striking the ground. Voices. Footsteps approaching. Milo grabbed Tasha, his arm pulling her behind one of the crates. They crouched low, holding their breath. 2 men stepped into the container, flashlights cutting through the dark. "Check the stash. Boss wants a count tonight," one of them said. The other grunted, moving toward the duffel bags. Milo's hand tightened on Tasha's wrist, signaling her to stay still. The first man flipped open the nearest bag, shining his light on the stacks of money. "All here? Good. Boss don't like surprises." The men turned and left as quickly as they had come, the sound of their boots fading into the distance. Tasha let out a shaky breath. "We have to follow them," she whispered. Milo looked at her like she was crazy. "You want to follow the guys who are definitely working for whoever has Andre? Are you out of your mind?" "If they're moving the money, they're moving something else too," Tasha argued. "I'm not leaving without knowing where." Milo cursed under his breath but nodded. "Fine, but we stick to the shadows. One mistake and we're dead." They crept out of the container, keeping their distance as they trailed the 2 men through the maze of cargo stacks. The workers didn't seem rushed, confident, like they owned the place. The men stopped near another container, this one marked with the same faint winged symbol stitched onto their jackets. They unlocked the doors and pulled them open wide. Tasha and Milo stayed hidden, watching from the shadows. Inside the container were more crates, but these weren't electronics. From where they crouched, they could make out cages, small ones, too small. Milo's eyes widened as the realization hit. "This is it," he whispered. "This is what they're moving." Tasha's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to rush in, to tear the doors off the container and free whoever was inside. But Milo grabbed her arm, shaking his head firmly. "Not now. We need proof. We need to know where they're taking them." Tasha swallowed hard, nodding slowly, though every part of her body screamed against standing still. They watched as the men secured the cages, covering them with tarps and loading them onto the back of an unmarked truck. Another man dressed in all black with a clipboard stepped up, checking the inventory. The truck rumbled to life, rolling toward the far exit of the yard. Tasha's heart pounded as she exchanged a look with Milo. "We follow them." The unmarked truck wound its way through the city's back streets, moving deliberately but without any rush. Milo kept a careful distance, headlights off, weaving between alleys and side roads to stay out of sight. Tasha sat rigid in the passenger seat, one hand gripping the edge of her seat, the other resting protectively on Andrew's arm in the back seat. He had drifted in and out of consciousness, mumbling incoherent words, too weak to sit up. The truck eventually pulled into the gated lot of an abandoned textile factory. Rusted gates creaked shut behind it, and a handful of guards in dark clothing closed ranks around the entrance. Milo cursed under his breath. They're not just hiding here, they're running operations out of this place. Tasha's mind raced. We need more than video. We need someone to come in. Milo nodded. I know a guy, former Fed. Runs private security now. If anyone will believe us and act fast, it's him. Tasha didn't argue. She reached for Milo's burner phone and quickly typed out a message while Milo turned the truck around, pulling into a hidden alley a few blocks away. Andra groaned weakly. Tasha turned, brushing the hair from his forehead. Hold on, baby. We're getting you out of this. She turned back to Milo. Call your guy. Now. 30 minutes later, a battered SUV pulled up behind them. A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped out, his face shadowed beneath a ball cap. Rico, Milo said, introducing him. Used to work trafficking cases. He owes me. Rico nodded once, no smile. Show me, Tasha explained everything in a rush. Andra's disappearance, the flash drive, the warehouse, cages. When she finished, Raiko's expression was grim. You're lucky they didn't kill you for poking around. He scanned the factory compound through a pair of military-grade binoculars. Looks like they're prepping another shipment tonight. We'll have one shot at this. What do you need? Tasha asked. Back up, fast. Discreet. He pulled out his own burner phone and made a call. Within minutes, 2 more black subs rolled up. Armed men climbed out, private contractors, not police, professionals. Rico laid out the plan quickly. One team would breach the loading dock. Another would cover the back exits. Tasha, Milo, and Andre would stay in the truck until the compound was secure. You move when I say move, Rico, said, fixing Tasha with a hard stare. She nodded, adrenaline roaring in her ears. The raid happened fast. Flashes of light, shouted commands. Gunfire, short bursts, controlled. Tasha watched from the alley, heart hammering as heavily armed men stormed the compound. The guards inside never stood a chance. Minutes later, Rico's voice crackled over the radio. Clear, move in. Tasha threw open the door and sprinted across the cracked pavement toward the factory. Inside, cages lined the walls. Children, wide-eyed and terrified, huddled against the bars. Crates filled with drugs and weapons littered the corners. And there, in a far room chained to a radiator, barely conscious, was Andre. Tasha dropped to her knees beside him, sobbing with relief. Andre, it's me. You're safe now. He blinked up at her, confusion and pain clouding his gaze. Tasha. I've got you, she whispered fiercely. I'm not letting you go. Milo and Rico helped cut the chains, lifting Andre carefully. Tasha looked up as agents began freeing the children, carrying them gently outside. She locked eyes with Rico. Thank you, she whispered. Rico gave a grim nod. This isn't over yet. You just blew open something bigger than any of us expected. What do you mean? Tasha asked. Rico's jaw tightened. This wasn't the only drop point. Tasha's blood ran cold. The sirens faded into the night as unmarked vans carried rescued children to safety. Andra leaned against Tasha in the back seat of Milo's truck, too weak to sit up but alive. Tasha clutched his hand, her heart finally slowing after hours of terror. But Rico wasn't celebrating. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. They gathered at a safe house 2 miles from the textile factory. Rico, Tasha, Milo, and Andre huddled in a dimly lit room, the walls lined with maps and old case files. Rico slammed a folder onto the table. 1 branch, 1 warehouse. This operation spans 5 states, maybe more. Tasha stared at him. How do you know? Rico tapped a map. Red circles marked locations from Florida to Georgia and up the eastern seaboard. Because I chased these bastards for 10 years and I never caught the head. You just kicked the door open wider than anyone else ever did. Andra coughed weakly. I don't want anyone else to get hurt. I'll talk. I'll tell them everything I know. Tasha squeezed his hand. We're going to take them down, she said fiercely. Rico gave her a hard look. You sure about that? This is bigger than one guy making deliveries. These people are rich, connected, ruthless. They'll come after you if they know you're talking. Tasha didn't hesitate. Let them come. Rico smirked slightly. You've got guts, I'll give you that. He pulled out a battered laptop and slid it across the table to Tasha. This was recovered from the textile warehouse. Shipment schedules. Drop points, names, half of it's encrypted, but it's a start. Tasha leaned in, studying the screen. One name jumped out, Martin Crane. Rico nodded grimly. Crane owns half the warehouses on the East Coast. Logistics companies a front. Andres struggled to sit up. I heard that name before. Some of the guys who picked up shipments used it like a password. Said if you had Crane's blessing, you were untouchable. Tasha felt a chill run down her spine. We have to hit him hard. Rico raised an eyebrow. Not so fast. This guy's protected. We can't go kicking in the door without proof. So we get proof, Tasha said. Milo shook his head. We just got out of this alive. Now you want to poke the bear again. Andre's voice was rough but steady. If we don't, more kids end up in cages. More families lose people they love. Milo scrubbed his hands over his face. Damn it. Rico leaned forward. There's a shipment scheduled tomorrow night. Different port, private airstrip north of the city. If we intercept it, maybe we can grab something that links Crane directly. Tasha's heart pounded. Then that's what we do. Rico gave a tight nod. Gear up. Get some rest. We'll move at dawn. Dawn came fast. Tasha barely slept. Neither did Andrew, though exhaustion weighed heavy on him. He insisted on coming anyway, refusing to be left behind. They arrived at the airstrip just before the first light cracked the sky. The place was quiet, too quiet. A single jet sat on the tarmac, engine silent. A few guards lingered near a hangar, armed and alert. Rico pointed to a loading bay behind the hangar. That's where they'll stage the shipment. Tasha adjusted her jacket, feeling the heavy weight of a borrowed pistol inside. She wasn't a fighter. She wasn't trained, but she wasn't backing down. Milo parked the truck a quarter-mile away, hidden behind an old maintenance shed. They moved in on foot, sticking to the shadows. Rico's team split up, covering exits. Tasha, Milo, and Andre circled toward the bay doors. The plan was simple. Catch them loading the cargo, get video, grab evidence. Simple never stayed simple. Inside the hangar, the scene mirrored the warehouse. Crates stacked high, a few cages hidden among them, and standing near the center, clipboard in hand, was a tall man in an expensive suit. Tasha recognized him from the photo Rico had shown her. Martin Crane. Tasha pulled out her phone, recording silently. Crane barked orders to the workers, pointing to containers, checking manifests. Every move screamed authority. This was their proof. Tasha edged closer, angling for a better shot. That's when everything went wrong. A guard spotted Milo. Hey, who the hell are you? Gunfire erupted. Tasha dropped to the ground, shielding. Her phone as bullets tore through the air. Rika's men moved fast, pinning down the guards, returning fire in short, controlled bursts. Milo tackled a guard trying to flank them. Andre grabbed a metal pipe, swinging clumsily but fiercely to defend himself. Tasha scrambled to her feet, shoving the phone deep into her pocket. Crane ducked behind a crate, pulling a pistol from inside his jacket. Rico shouted, "Tasha, get out!" But she wasn't leaving, not without ending this. She moved forward, heart in her throat, toward the man who started it all. Tasha's breath came in ragged gasps as she darted between crates, moving closer to Crane. Bullets whizzed past her, plowing into wood and metal. Crane crouched low behind a stack of boxes, barking into a radio clipped to his belt. Get the cargo out. Forget the shipment. Secure the assets and move. Tasha closed the distance, slipping around the side. Her palms were slick with sweat as she drew the pistol from her jacket. She had never fired a gun in her life, but right now fear took a backseat to fury. She stepped into Crane's line of sight. "Drop it," she shouted. Crane spun, aiming his pistol at her chest. "You don't know what you're doing," he sneered. "I know exactly what I'm doing," Tasha said, her hands steady. "You're done." Behind her, Rico and Milo closed in, weapons drawn. Crane's eyes flicked between them. He calculated, hesitated, and dropped his weapon. Milo kicked it away and Rico tackled him to the ground, wrenching Crane's arms behind his back. "Martin Crane," Rico growled, "you're under citizen's arrest for conspiracy, human trafficking, and a long, long list of other sins." Tasha sagged against a crate, relief crashing over her like a wave. They had him. The guards still standing surrendered quickly once they saw Crane cuffed and powerless. Within minutes, Ryko's men had secured the entire airstrip. Tasha turned to Andri, who leaned heavily on Milo for support but managed a weak smile. "You did it," Andri whispered. "We did it," Tasha corrected, tears stinging her eyes. Hours later, under the pale glow of the morning sun, the authorities arrived. This time, real law enforcement. Real agents. Rico's team handed over everything: recordings, manifest lists, names. Barton Crane was shoved into the back of a black SUV, scowling but silent. Rico clapped Tasha on the shoulder. "You've got guts, girl. Not many would have seen this through." Tasha gave a tired smile. "We couldn't let them get away with it." "No," Rico agreed. "You made sure they won't." He handed her a flash drive, evidence copy, just in case. Tasha closed her fingers around it tightly. "Thank you." Rico tipped his cap and walked off. Tasha turned to Milo and Andri. "Let's go home," she said. They climbed into Milo's battered pickup, battered but unbroken, and drove away from the airstrip without looking back. A week later, Tasha stood at the shoreline, the wind whipping her hair around her face. Andri sat beside her, bruises fading but scars lingering deeper than the skin. The city stretched behind them, noisy and chaotic as ever, but for a moment there was peace. Tasha reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out the burner. Phone, the one she had found in Andre's abandoned delivery bag. The screen still worked. A single unread message blinked back at her. She hesitated, then opened it. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't an order. It was coordinates, a location. Far north, out of state. Andri leaned over, reading the screen. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" he asked, voice low. Tasha nodded slowly. "It's not over." He smiled faintly. "Good, because neither are we." Tasha slid the phone into her pocket, linking her hand with Andra's as they turned away from the water. Some deliveries never ended, some stories never finished, and some battles were just getting started.